I walked into my daughter's kitchen to get a glass of water, and that's when I heard my 16-year-old granddaughter Emma's voice from the dining room. Honestly, why is Grandma even still alive? She's so embarrassing. I froze. My hand was on the refrigerator door handle. Then I heard my daughter Sarah laugh. Not a shocked gasp, not a reprimand, a laugh. "Emma, don't say that. Where she can hear you." They both giggled. I didn't cry. I didn't leave. I stood there in that kitchen, my heart pounding, and I made a decision. I walked back to the dining room with my water glass, sat down at the Thanksgiving table I'd spent 6 hours cooking for, and I smiled. Let me back up. My name is Evelyn. I'm 68 years old, and until that moment, I thought I was living a pretty good life. I'd been a widow for 12 years. My husband Tom died of a heart attack when he was 59. We'd planned to retire together, travel, maybe buy an RV. Instead, I got his life insurance policy and an empty house that was too big for one person. I had 2 daughters. Sarah, my oldest, was 42. She'd always been ambitious, the kind of girl who made vision boards and talked about manifesting her dreams. After college, she became a yoga instructor, then decided she wanted to open her own studio, a boutique place in an upscale neighborhood where wealthy women could do hot yoga and drink $15 smoothies. The problem was, Sarah didn't have the money to start a business. Her husband Brandon worked in sales, made decent money, but not enough for a down payment on commercial real estate plus renovations plus equipment. They came to me 3 years ago. Sarah sat in my living room, held my hands, and told me about her vision. "Mom, this is my calling. I just need help getting started." I'd recently sold the big house and moved into a 2-bedroom apartment. Tom's life insurance, plus the house sale, had left me with a comfortable nest egg. Not wealthy, but secure. I was living on my teacher's pension and Social Security. I'd taught 2nd grade for 35 years. I gave Sarah $80,000, my savings, my security, my backup plan. "You don't have to do this, Mom," she'd said, but her eyes were already calculating how she'd spend it. "I know," I told her, "but I want to. I want you to have your dream." "I'll pay you back," she promised. She never did, and I never asked, because that's what mothers do, right? We sacrifice, we give, we don't keep score. The yoga studio opened, and it was beautiful. Sarah called it Lotus Rising. She hired 3 other instructors, sold expensive athleisure in the lobby, offered meditation workshops. I went to the grand opening, proud as could be. I tried to tell people, "My daughter owns this place. I helped make it happen." Sarah pulled me aside. "Mom, don't tell people that. My brand is about being self-made, about manifesting abundance through your own energy. It doesn't fit the narrative if people know I had help." I felt like she'd slapped me, but I swallowed it down. "Of course, honey, I understand. That should have been my first warning sign. But you don't see red flags when you're wearing rose-colored glasses." Then there was Emma, my granddaughter. I'd been her free babysitter since she was born. Every day after school, she'd come to my apartment. I'd make her snacks, help with homework, take her to the park. Sarah worked long hours at the studio, and Brandon traveled for work. They needed help, and I gave it. For 10 years, I rearranged my entire life around Emma's schedule. I couldn't travel. I couldn't join the book club that met on Tuesday afternoons. I couldn't take the watercolor painting class at the senior center. Emma needed me. But somewhere around age 14, Emma stopped needing me. Or maybe she just stopped pretending to be grateful. She'd sit on my couch, scrolling through her phone, barely acknowledging my presence. When I'd ask about school, I got one-word answers. When I'd suggest we bake cookies together like we used to, she'd sigh like I'd asked her to solve world hunger. "Grandma, I'm not a baby anymore," she'd say, not looking up from her screen. I told myself it was normal teenage behavior. Kids pull away. It's developmental. It wasn't personal, except it was. My younger daughter Rachel lived in Oregon. She'd moved there right after college for a job in environmental science. We talked on the phone every few months, exchanged texts on birthdays and holidays. She was busy, I understood. I'd poured so much energy into helping Sarah and Emma that Rachel and I had drifted apart. That was my fault, not hers. Sarah lived 20 minutes away, but I barely saw her outside of holidays. She never called just to chat. When I'd call her, she was always busy. "Mom, I'm with a client. Mom, I'm in a meeting. Mom, can I call you back?" She never called back. But on social media, I could see her life. Pictures of her and Brandon at fancy restaurants, weekend trips to wine country, girls' nights out with her yoga instructor friends. She had time for all of that. Just not for me. I started to feel it in my chest. This ache, like I was standing outside a warm house, looking in through the window. I could see the life happening inside, but I wasn't invited in. My friend Margaret noticed. We'd taught at the same elementary school, and we'd stayed close after retirement. She'd come over for coffee, and I'd make excuses for Sarah. "She's so busy with the studio," I'd say. "I'm proud of how hard she works." "Evelyn," Margaret said one day, setting down her coffee cup, "when was the last time Sarah asked how you're doing?" I opened my mouth to answer and realized I couldn't remember. "She takes from you," Margaret continued. "Your time, your money, your energy. But what does she give back?" "She's my daughter," I said, defensive. "I don't expect anything back." "Maybe you should," Margaret said quietly. I didn't want to hear it. So I changed the subject. That was 6 months ago. Now it was Thanksgiving, and for the first time in 3 years, Sarah had invited me to their house for dinner. I was so happy. I thought maybe things were changing. Maybe she was making an effort. "Don't bring anything, Mom," she'd said on the phone. "Just yourself." But I couldn't show up empty-handed. That's not how I was raised. So I got up at 5 in the morning and cooked. I made my famous sweet potato casserole with the pecan streusel topping. I made green bean almondine. I made homemade cranberry sauce. I made a pumpkin pie and an apple pie. I packed everything carefully in containers, loaded it into my car, and drove to Sarah's beautiful house. The house in the good neighborhood with the good schools. The house they could afford because Sarah's business was thriving. The business I'd made possible. Brandon opened the door. "Oh, Evelyn. Hi." He looked past me at my car, full of food containers. "Sarah said you weren't bringing anything." "I wanted to contribute," I said, smiling. "I made some sides and desserts." He didn't help me carry anything in. I made 3 trips from the car to the kitchen, my arms aching. "I'm 68. I have arthritis in my knees." Sarah was in the living room, on her phone. She glanced up when I came in with the last load. "Mom, I told you not to bring anything. Now I have to find room in the fridge." "I just wanted to help," I said. She sighed. "I have it under control, Mom." Emma was upstairs. I could hear music playing from her room. She didn't come down to say hello. I stood in Sarah's kitchen, surrounded by food I'd spent hours making, and I felt invisible. "Can I help with anything?" I asked. "No, Mom. Just go sit down. Watch TV or something." So I did. I sat on the couch in the living room and watched the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade on their big screen TV, alone. I could hear Sarah and Brandon in the kitchen, talking and laughing. No one invited me to join them. Around noon, I went to the kitchen to get a glass of water. That's when I heard it. The kitchen connected to the dining room through an open doorway. They were in there, setting the table. Sarah, Brandon, and Emma. They didn't know I could hear them. Emma spoke first. "I can't believe Grandma just showed up with all that food. Like, Mom said she'd handle dinner. Why can't Grandma just listen?" "She means well," Sarah said, but her tone was exasperated, not affectionate. "She's so embarrassing," Emma continued. "Last week she called me like 5 times. I didn't answer, and she left these long voicemails asking if I was okay. I'm fine. I'm just busy. Why doesn't she get that?" Brandon laughed. "Your grandma's pretty clingy," She is, Emma agreed. And her clothes are so outdated. When she came to my volleyball game last month, I pretended I didn't know her. I felt like I'd been punched. Then Emma said it. Honestly, why is Grandma even still alive? She's so embarrassing. And Sarah laughed. My daughter. My Sarah. The girl I'd raised alone after her father died. The girl I'd given everything to. She laughed. Emma, don't say that, where she can hear you. They giggled together. Mother and daughter. A team. Against me. I stood in that kitchen, my hand still on the refrigerator door, and something inside me broke. Not broke in the way that shatters. Broke in the way that wakes up. I took my glass of water and walked back to the dining room. I sat down at the table they were setting. I smiled at my daughter, my son-in-law, my granddaughter. The table looks beautiful, I said. Sarah looked startled to see me. Had she forgotten I was there? Oh, thanks, Mom. We ate dinner. Sarah's turkey was dry. My sweet potato casserole was the first thing to disappear. No one said thank you. Brandon scrolled through his phone during the meal. Emma asked to be excused before dessert to go text her friends. It's Thanksgiving, I said. Can't you stay at the table with family? She rolled her eyes. Grandma, it's not 1,950. Sarah didn't back me up. She just shrugged. Let her go, Mom. She's 16. After dinner, I cleared the table. Sarah and Brandon went to the living room to watch football. I washed dishes, alone, in a kitchen full of my own food that no one had appreciated. I was drying the last plate when I heard Sarah and Brandon talking in the other room. When do you think we'll get the inheritance? Brandon asked. My hands stopped moving. I don't know, Sarah said. She's healthy. Could be years. The studio could use the cash, Brandon said. Business is down this quarter. If we had access to her money now, we can't exactly ask her to die faster, Sarah said, and they both laughed. I set down the plate, very carefully, because if I hadn't, I might have thrown it. I walked into the living room. They looked up, surprised, guilty. I need to use the restroom, I said calmly. I'll just be a minute. I went upstairs to their guest bathroom. I locked the door. I sat on the closed toilet lid, and I took out my phone. I didn't cry. I was done crying. Instead, I searched for a estate planning attorney near me. I found one who had an emergency contact line. I called. Hello, this is Lawrence Chen with Chen and Associates, a voice answered. Hello, I said, my voice steady. My name is Evelyn Porter, and I need to change my will immediately. Is there any way you could meet with me tomorrow? I know it's the day after Thanksgiving. Is this an urgent matter, Mrs. Porter? Yes, I said. It is. I can meet you at 10 a.m. tomorrow at my office. Thank you, I said. I'll be there. I went back downstairs. I smiled at my daughter and her husband. I think I'm going to head home. I'm a bit tired. Oh, okay, Mom, Sarah said, barely looking up from the TV. Thanks for coming. I gathered my empty containers, the ones that had held food they'd eaten without gratitude. Brandon didn't help me carry them to the car. Sarah didn't walk me to the door. Emma was in her room. I knocked softly. I'm leaving, sweetheart. Bye, Grandma, she said, not looking up from her phone. I drove home in the dark. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just drove. The next morning, I met with Mr. Chen. He was a small man with kind eyes and a professional demeanor. I told him everything. He listened without interrupting. I want to change my will, I said. Everything I have was going to be split between my two daughters. I want to change that. Are you sure, Mrs. Porter? These decisions can be difficult to reverse. I'm sure, I said, more sure than I've ever been. I left 70% of my estate to the county animal shelter. I'd volunteered there for years after Tom died. The people there appreciated me. The dogs didn't care if I wore outdated clothes. I left 20% to my daughter Rachel. We weren't close, but she'd never been cruel. She'd just been busy, living her own life. That wasn't a crime. I left 10% to Emma, but with conditions. She could only access it if she graduated from college and wrote a 1,000-word essay about respect. The essay would be judged by a committee Mr. Chen would establish. If it showed genuine understanding and growth, she'd get the money. Sarah and Brandon got nothing. "Are you certain about this?" Mr. Chen asked. "Completely," I said. He drew up the papers. I signed them. He had them witnessed and notarized. It was done. "Would you like me to inform your family of these changes?" he asked. "No," I said. "They'll find out when I'm gone." But Mr. Chen looked at me seriously. "Mrs. Porter, I have to ask, are you in any immediate danger? Are you experiencing any health crisis?" "What?" "No," I said. "I'm healthy. I just wanted to take care of this." "Good," he said, "because I'd hate to think someone drove you to this decision through threat or coercion." "No one drove me to anything," I said. "For the first time in years, I'm driving myself." I went home, feeling lighter than I had in months. I'd taken control. I'd chosen myself. That Sunday, my phone rang. It was Sarah. "Mom, I need to talk to you about something," she said. "What is it, honey?" "Brandon and I were talking, and, well, the studio's having some cash flow issues. We were wondering if you could lend us some money. Just temporarily. Maybe 20,000? Just temporarily. Like the 80,000 I'd given her 3 years ago that was supposed to be paid back." "I can't do that, Sarah," I said. Silence. "What do you mean, you can't?" "I mean, I don't have that kind of money to lend anymore." "Mom, I know you got a good settlement from the house sale. You must have—" "I made some investments," I lied smoothly. "My money is tied up." "Investments?" She sounded suspicious. "Since when do you invest?" "Since I decided to plan for my future," I said. "I can't keep being everyone's emergency fund." "Everyone's?" "Mom, I'm your daughter." "I know who you are, Sarah." Another pause. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I can't help you right now." "I'm sorry." "I wasn't sorry." "Fine," she said, her voice cold. "I guess I know where I stand." She hung up. 2 weeks later, Margaret came over for coffee. I told her everything. She listened, her expression shifting from surprise to approval. "Good for you," she said when I finished. "It's about time. You think I did the right thing? Evelyn, you taught Sarah that you'd always be there, no matter how she treated you. You taught her that her needs mattered more than yours. You taught her that your love was unconditional, even when she gave nothing back." I stirred my coffee, thinking, "That's not love," Margaret continued. "That's enabling. I just wanted to be a good mother." "You were a good mother." "But Sarah's 42 years old. She's not a child who needs protecting. She's an adult who needs to understand that actions have consequences." I nodded slowly. "I wish I'd learned this sooner." "You learned it when you were ready," Margaret said. "That's all that matters." Christmas came. Sarah didn't invite me to their house. I spent it with Margaret and her family. We played board games and ate too much ham. I had a better time than I'd had at Thanksgiving. New Year's Eve, I was home alone, watching the ball drop on TV, when my phone buzzed. A text from Emma. "Grandma, can we talk?" I stared at it for a long time before responding. "Of course. Can I come over tomorrow?" "Yes." The next day, Emma showed up at my apartment. She looked different, smaller somehow, uncertain. "Hi, Grandma," she said quietly. "Come in, sweetheart." We sat on my couch, the same couch where she'd spent thousands of hours as a child, eating my snacks, doing her homework, telling me about her day. "I owe you an apology," she said, not looking at me, "for what I said at Thanksgiving, and for how I've been treating you." I waited. "Mom told me you heard us. In the dining room." Of course Sarah knew. Of course she'd figured it out and told Emma, probably to make herself feel less guilty. "I did hear you," I said. Emma's eyes filled with tears. "Grandma, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it. I was just trying to be cool in front of Mom." She's always complaining about you, about how you're too involved, too clingy. I guess I just went along with it. Something in my chest tightened. Your mother complains about me? Emma nodded miserably. All the time. She says you don't have boundaries, that you guilt trip her, that you're always trying to insert yourself into her life. I sat back, absorbing this. All this time, I'd thought I was helping. Being there. Being the mother I'd wished I'd had. Emma, I said carefully, can I ask you something honestly? Okay. When I'd pick you up from school every day and make you snacks and help with homework, did you ever want me to do that? Or were you just going along with what your mother wanted? She bit her lip. At first, I loved it. You were my favorite person. But then, I don't know. As I got older, Mom would make comments, like, Grandma has nothing else to do. That's why she's always available. Or, it's nice that Grandma can fill her lonely life with you. Each word was a knife. She made it sound like you were using me, Emma continued. Like you needed me more than I needed you. So I started to feel, I don't know, trapped? Like I had to go to your place because you'd be sad if I didn't. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Because you seemed so happy, she said. And Mom said, not to hurt your feelings. I laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. Interesting that she was so worried about my feelings then. We sat in silence for a moment. I really am sorry, Grandma, Emma said. You didn't deserve what I said. You didn't deserve how I've been acting. I looked at this girl, this almost woman. She wasn't a child anymore. She was old enough to make her own choices, to understand consequences. I forgive you, Emma, I said. She burst into tears and hugged me. I held her, and I meant it. I did forgive her. She'd been influenced by her mother, caught in the middle of something she didn't fully understand. But forgiveness doesn't mean everything goes back to the way it was. When she pulled away, I said, but things are going to be different now. She nodded. I understand. I'm not going to be available whenever you or your mother need something. I have my own life to live. Okay. And I'm not going to pretend that what was said and done didn't hurt me. It did. It hurt very much. I know, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I believe you, I said. But Emma, you're 16. You're old enough to make your own choices about how you treat people. Don't just follow what your mother does. Think for yourself. She nodded again, wiping her eyes. After she left, I sat on my couch and cried. Not because I regretted forgiving her, but because I mourned what I'd lost. Or maybe what I'd never really had. Sarah never apologized. Not that day. Not ever. She'd occasionally text me, usually when she needed something, information about a family health history for Emma's doctor, a recipe I used to make. The number for the plumber I'd used. I'd answer politely, briefly. I didn't offer more. Margaret was right. I'd taught Sarah that I'd always be there, no matter what. So why would she change? She'd gotten everything she needed from me without having to give anything back. But I was done teaching that lesson. 2 years went by. I joined the book club. I took the watercolor class. I went on a cruise to Alaska with Margaret. I volunteered more at the animal shelter. I made friends with a woman named Joyce, who'd also lost her husband and understood what it was like to rebuild a life alone. I wasn't waiting by the phone anymore. I wasn't rearranging my life around other people's needs. I was living. Emma would text me occasionally. She'd gotten her driver's license and would sometimes stop by, usually when she'd had a fight with her mother. We'd talk. Not like we used to, not with that easy closeness, but we talked. One day, she said, Mom says you've changed, that you're not the same person. Your mother's right, I said. I'm not. She thinks you're mad at her. I'm not mad, I said truthfully. I'm just done. Done with what? Done with making myself small so other people can feel big. Done with sacrificing myself for people who don't appreciate it. Done with waiting for crumbs of affection from people who should be offering whole meals. Emma looked at me with something like awe. Grandma, you're kind of a badass now. I laughed. I'm the same person I always was. I just finally decided I was worth my own time and energy. Last month, Emma graduated high school. Sarah sent me an invitation to the ceremony. I went. I sat in the audience with hundreds of other people. Afterward, I gave Emma a card with a check for $500. "Congratulations, sweetheart," I said. "Thanks, Grandma." She hugged me tight. "I'm going to State University in the fall." I was thinking, maybe we could have lunch before I go? Just you and me? "I'd like that," I said. And I meant it. Sarah was there with Brandon, surrounded by friends and family, taking pictures. She waved at me from across the courtyard. I waved back. We didn't speak. I don't know if we ever will. Not really. Not in any way that matters. And I've made my peace with that. Because here's what I learned. You can love someone and still choose yourself. You can forgive someone and still maintain boundaries. You can be a good mother and still refuse to be treated badly. I'm 68 years old, and I finally understand that my worth isn't measured by how much I can give or how useful I am to other people. It's measured by how I treat myself, by whether I demand the respect I deserve. Some bridges are meant to burn, not out of anger, but out of self-preservation. Sarah will find out about the will someday. Maybe not for years. Maybe when I'm gone. Maybe she'll be angry. Maybe she'll finally understand. Or maybe she won't. Either way, I'll be at peace. Because I finally chose myself. And that's not selfish. That's survival.